You've probably said it. I've said it. We all have. Calm down. It sounds reasonable, right? But here's the thing. Telling somebody to calm down when they're already escalated is like shouting, "Be quiet" at a music concert. They might even turn the volume up just to drown you out. It's not just ineffective, it can actually make things worse. If you are caring for someone else, whether paid or unpaid, and no matter how many hours you do it, did you realise that you may be missing out on thousands of pounds of discounts for things that you may use every day? The Able to Care podcast is proud to be sponsored by the UK's #1 carers card. Started by two best friends who recognise that carers deserve better and are 100% committed to helping to change the lives of all carers and bringing them together as a strong community. Carers Card UK provides support, recognition and rewards. It offers reassurance by providing an ID card that helps access emergency information when needed, while also unlocking discounts, a wellbeing hub, a carers circle tool and a community through their app. All of this for less than the price of a box of chocolates a year. There are discounts on gym membership, days out, electrical goods, clothing and even glasses. Let others know you care while taking a little care of yourself with an ID card you can be proud of. Visit carerscarduk.co.uk/promo code/able to care today to order yours. Welcome back to the Able to Care podcast. I'm your host, Andy Baker, and today we're looking at one of the most common, most counterproductive phrases in behaviour support and de-escalation. Calm down. It feels like the right thing to say, right? It's quick, it's familiar, it's what we've probably been told when you were growing up. But when somebody is distressed or dysregulated, whether they're a child, whether they're an adult with additional needs, whether they're an elderly person with dementia in a state of crisis, or even a colleague who's struggling emotionally, those two words are more likely to escalate than to de-escalate. So today, I'm going to unpack why this happens, the science behind emotional regulation, and give you some practical research-based alternatives that actually work in the heat of the moment. So we're going to break this down into three parts. Why calm down fails from a neurological and psychological perspective. How co-regulation is going to beat control every single time. And also practical language swaps that we could maybe start using today that can actually lower rather than raise the temperature of a situation. Now, why is this important? For any of you out there that have potentially ever had somebody telling you to calm down, you know it isn't the most effective way of helping you to regulate. One, you're being ordered how to feel. It's the equivalent of somebody with depression being told to cheer up. You can't just change the way you feel just because somebody commands. But it can actually cause further confrontation in the fact that, don't you tell me what to do? So one of the elements of this, from a neuroscience point of view, Dr. Bruce Perry explains that when the brain's limbic system, as I often refer to it, the alarm bell in the brain, is activated, access to the prefrontal cortex, the conductor to the orchestra, the thinking brain, is actually reduced. So being able to listen and rationalize what you're saying suddenly becomes extremely difficult when I'm already in a heightened state of arousal. In polyvagal theory from Stephen Porges, he shows that when somebody feels unsafe or unheard, their nervous system can shift into the fight, flight, and freeze responses, none of which responds to verbal commands like calm down. The other challenge is a conflict in communication. So when emotions run high, words are far less informative than tone and body language. You may have heard the principle before. It's often referred to that 7% is communication, 38% vocal tone, and 55% of body language. There is some controversy around those figures, but if we think of it, about a 7% and a 93% is paralinguistics. So when we're in a heightened emotional state, one of the areas of the brain is kind of communication, understanding. You know, we don't need to be talking to a lion that we're fighting or running away from. But suddenly we're picking up on the nonverbal cues. So if somebody is saying calm down, but they're saying calm, but they're not coming from a calm place, well, straight away, if they're being spoken with tension, that could be read as a threat rather than an invitation. So if we get this wrong, we don't just fail to diffuse the situation, we actually make it worse. If we can get it right, though, we can actually help somebody return to their baseline state faster and preserve trust. And trust is key. I always say when I'm teaching this, who are you more likely to listen to when de-escalating? Your best friend who's encouraging you to calm, or a stranger saying calm down? We know that the best friend is more likely to calm because you believe that they have your best interests in mind. You believe that they're looking out for you. So how are we going to do it? First off, we want to make sure we're focusing on calm being as contagious as fear and panic. If I'm going in a heightened state of arousal, well, that's going to be contagious. If I'm in a state of panic, I often sort of teach this. If you've ever seen a dog owner walking along with their dog and they see another dog walking towards them, and as they see that dog approaching, they get their dog and the lead of the dog really, really tight, really hold on to it and pull the dog close to themselves, thinking that they're then reducing the chances of the dogs fighting. But actually, what has that dog picked up on? Well, it's picked up on the fact that my owner's saying that I'm in danger. My owner seems to be distressed. That isn't reducing the likelihood of the dogs fighting. It's actually increasing the likelihood of the dogs fighting because the communication tone is, you're not safe here. So as we just said, figuring that fight-flight response. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our body language and our tone in a calm state. I often like to do a more collaborative approach as well. Should always be collaborative. So it's a case of, why don't you sit down and tell me everything that's bothering you? Because if they're talking, they've got to kind of at least regulate to some degree their emotional state. Look, I can see you're upset and I want to understand what you're saying, but you need to slow it down so I can understand. Because to slow down, I have to calm down. To sit down, I have to calm down. So there's a few things that I can refer to the behavior rather than the feelings in that particular moment. So I can validate, I can refer to behavior and give them a prompt to something I want them to do rather than what I don't want them to do. There's one other thing I really try and get over when it comes to calming. You don't get to dictate how fast a person will calm as much as you would like to. This is relinquishing that control. You can't just click your fingers and decide another person could be calm. And I sometimes put it across like this. Let's say, imagine you went to a doctor's appointment. And in this doctor's appointment, you were looking to better manage your anxiety. You were struggling with it on a day-to-day basis. And you'd heard about this new study that was being organized where the doctor will kind of provide a medication that allows you to then instantly reduce your anxiety. But they have to test you to see whether you are the right person for the test. So you go into this experiment and you really want this because it really is impacting on your life, the level of anxiety you're experiencing, level of distress you're experiencing. So you sit across the table from the doctor, and the doctor goes, right, before we're able to do the test to see if you're appropriate for this study, we need to get you down to a baseline state as far as anxiety is concerned. So I can see you're a little bit agitated already and a bit nervous about the event. So your heart rate is a little bit high and your blood pressure a little bit high. So we need to get those down. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to get yourself calm. So imagine then sitting there thinking, I need to calm, I need to calm, I need to calm. Does that sound like that's synonymous with getting calm? Now, you might start taking some breaths and stuff like that, but maybe 5 minutes in, the doctor then goes, right, you've already had 5 minutes now and your base rate isn't still where it needs to be. We need to hurry this up, otherwise we're not going to be able to perform the tests on you. Then it's 3 minutes before the end. And they're going, look, there is other people who really want this test and we've got a limited amount of space. If you can't get your heart rate down in the next couple of minutes, then I'm afraid you're not going to be eligible for the test. And they keep putting this pressure on you that you need to get calm. You need to get yourself regulated within this set period of time. Maybe even get to the point of going, look, if you can't get this down, you've only got a minute left. If you can't get this down, we only have one other option, which is to give you an injection to bring that heart rate down. Again, are any of these things going to help you to actually regulate your emotions in that particular moment? You don't get to dictate how long it takes somebody to calm. So patience, understanding, and waiting is sometimes a big part of helping somebody to de-escalate. If we're not giving them the tools as well, so what tools could we give them? Can we help them? And hey, let's go and do this. So collaborative, we might prompt them for an incompatible behavior, give them choices, give them tell you what, when we do this, then we can get this sorted. Let's go for a walk and just get things cooled down and then we can get things figured for you. So a step-by-step process. So refer to, again, the behavior rather than the feelings. We may give them the tools that they need to help them to overcome those challenges in that particular moment. We're making sure that we're role modeling, massively important as far as that calming process is concerned. When a person is in a dysregulated state, one other thing I say is, again, we need to put the fire out first. We need to turn the alarm bell off first. We need to help the person to get regulated first before we can look at then what they should do differently next time, how they should have managed their emotions better. When a fire is burning, we shouldn't be trying to prevent the fire from happening in the future. Our objective when a fire is burning is just to put out the fire. And far too many people try and be proactive when they should be responding. We put and regulate first, then we can look at what the next steps are, what we could do differently next time, how we can manage it, or what the consequences might be. Getting somebody to calm while shouting at them or what the consequences of their actions are going to be isn't very calming. There's one other thing I'd say, based on some of the causes there, as far as the triggering that fight or flight response. Remember that we are supporting and working with frightened flight animals. It's what humans are, essentially. So if you are being aggressive, you are being overpowering, you're being authoritarian, you may trigger either a fight, a flight, or a freeze response. Now, the freeze response might seem, hey, they've calmed. They haven't calmed. They've just paused for a second because they feel unsafe. That emotion's still going to come out somewhere, but it may come out more passive aggressively, or it may come out on somebody else or circumstances, or even on themselves. So genuine de-escalation is about bringing the person down to that baseline state. Now, I understand some of people out there will be kind of the challenges of, well, they should just do as they're told. I don't have time for that in that moment. If we look at maybe they should do as they're told. If I tell them to calm down, they should be calming down. But responding in a crisis, compliance is the wrong goal. Regulation comes first. Learning comes second. A dysregulated brain isn't going to listen to you anyway. It can't absorb consequences or logic as we'd expect it to. The second thing is, I don't have time in that moment. What if there is a time scale on this? If you think you don't have time for de-escalation, you'll spend far more time managing the fallout from the escalation itself. So think about that. I don't have time for de-escalation, but the time it takes you to properly de-escalate will take you far less time than still managing a person in a dysregulated state and all the fallout and all of the kind of the paperwork and everything like that we've got to do on top of that. But also it's about, if you allow it to stay up at the high level for a long period of time, because we're not re-regulating, we're going to be left in a dysregulated state, which is going to have a knock-on effect to our day, our lives, our stress, our burnout as a result of that. One other thing that people sometimes make the mistake of is when we're going into collaborative approaches to help somebody to calm, people perceive that as going, isn't that giving them the attention they want? Isn't that rewarding the behavior? Co-regulation isn't a reward. If a baby is distressed and crying, is mum going over and giving it food, rewarding negative behavior? If somebody doesn't have a way to communicate their needs or to regulate their emotions, why would we punish them? Why don't we teach them? Co-regulation is a prerequisite for teaching. If we want somebody to learn to better manage their emotions, we need to teach them when they're already calm, not when they're already up there. Aim is to put the fire out first, and then we move on. So next time you feel that words calm down, there's a few things we can do to finish off. One, make it collaborative. Hey, I think we need to get calm because I doubt you're calm as well. So you might as well make it collaborative. Making sure you're calm yourself. Refer to the behavior rather than the feelings of, come on, let's sit down. Why don't you tell me everything that's bothering you? Or I can see how upset you are. I need you to explain it to me slowly so I can really understand. Let's take a couple of deep breaths and then we can get things figured. Why don't we go for a walk and then we can figure this out together? All of these are far better tools for de-escalating than telling somebody to calm down. Behavior management isn't about control. It's about connection. And connection starts with making people feel safe enough to be able to calm down because they choose to, not because they're told to. So think about this. Think about your own triggers. Think about when you may have been told to calm down, or when you're most likely to say to somebody else, calm down. And what could you replace it with next time?